Hello, everybody. We are just about a minute out. We're going to let a few people keep coming on. I don't know if Jen has already said that, but I'm Bree from Arch Solar. We are co-hosting the webinar, so we will get started momentarily. We'll just let a few more people in. Okay, it looks like Justin, are you getting settled?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty well set up here. Can you hear me okay?
We
Yes.
can.
Awesome.
All right. All right. Well, it is 11, so I can introduce Jennifer and Justin, and we can get started. And this is being recorded, so it will send out afterwards. We'll make sure you get this information. Uh, how we're going to run today, Jennifer and Justin will give you some information about heat pumps and solar, how they work together. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I will either stop them or wait till the end and read it out, depending on how it flows. We want to make sure that this benefits your time the best. So we have two experts. We want to make sure that we ask questions of them. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and Justin.
Thank you, Bree, and thank you everybody for joining us at today's webinar. We are excited to have you here and to share with you the benefits of heat pumps and solar together. I'll start by introducing myself and tell you a little bit about Arch Solar. So I'm Jennifer Larson, and I started working with Arch Solar in 2021. Arch has been in business for over 21 years and has been serving Southeast Wisconsin, providing solar to homeowners and businesses. We have offices in Madison, Milwaukee, and Plymouth. Justin?
Yeah, thanks for the invite today. I'm really excited to be here with everybody. So my name is Justin Frankie. I am the operations manager for professional services. Our home base is actually out of Port Washington, but we do have strategic partners with West Dallas Heating and then also two companies to the north. So we do cover pretty much the whole eastern third of the state from border to border. My personal experience, I have 20 years in the HVAC industry. The last 10 years, my specialty has actually been geothermal, so ground source heat pumps. So once again, thanks for having me on. I'm super happy to talk about heat pumps today.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. So I'll give you a quick run through the overview or of the agenda. We'll start out by having an overview and benefits of heat pump systems. We'll talk about the benefits and an overview of solar. We'll talk about adding battery storage and what that would look like. And then we'll take a look at what solar and heat pumps would look like together. The benefits for your energy savings and for your money savings, some of the incentives, and then the big picture incentives. And then, as Bree mentioned, at the end, we'll have time for questions. I'll hand it over to you, Justin.
All right, so heat pumps. You want to jump to my next slide, please? Awesome. What is a heat pump? So what kind of different types do we have? We have ducted versions, so air to air. We also have air to water. Water to air is actually coming out with a lot more improvements, so we are looking at that also as bringing in as an option. Ground source, also known as geothermal, ductless, and then dual fuel hybrid. And there's one more that did not make the slide, is actually water heaters. So we're doing a lot of hybrid water heaters now in homes. So we can jump to the next. Actually, that picture there, I'm going to have you jump back one more time. That is an example of a geothermal with a ground loop, just a horizontal type ground loop there. So we can jump to the next slide if that works. So how does a heat pump work? We're just going to keep it very simple. A heat pump essentially is an air conditioner running in reverse. We're just transferring energy using compression of refrigerant. So the really cool arrow there is essentially that one part of electricity. The goal is to actually be making that one part via solar. But if we did have to purchase that, it's basically a multiplier. Once we use the refrigerant cycle, of the system, we're actually able to use that as like a multiplier. So one part and we get 5 parts free from the earth or from the air that we extract it from. So we can jump slides again. Heat pump options. So we do have a solution for a heat pump for basically every type of home. So I'll just kind of touch on the three main ones that we have here. So ground source or geothermal, we can size those to handle 100% of the heating and cooling loads with no need of backup, or we can have electric redundancy backup. They do come with the highest efficiency because we have the consistency of the ground temperature. So we're transferring our energy directly into the ground instead of the air. Can be retrofitted into almost any type of home. Yard size is really not much of a restriction. We have vertical wells. We have basically trenches we can put in. Really, the avatar customer for a geothermal would be somebody on maybe LP gas, propane, 1 to 2 acres, kind of sitting out in the country. But we do those in the inner city, very small lots. That's kind of the most common for geothermal. The next one is going to be air source dual fuel. So this is a great option for any homeowner. This is going to be much more affordable up front. So this basically replaces any furnace and AC. So when you do go to a heat pump, it still functions fully as an air conditioner. So it's just we reverse the refrigerant flow with a couple extra components, and then that causes us to give us use of heat. It does use kind of a balance point. So when we do combine with solar, because we're not purchasing that one part of electricity to operate the machine, we can definitely push the envelope a little bit lower before it would transition over to a fossil fuel as a heat source. So the benefit there is you do have fossil fuel redundancy. So super cold days, you are running on burning natural gas, LP, or any other source that you have for heat. The other most common one is air source ductless. So this is a great application for a house that doesn't have ductwork. If you have hydronic heating, even electric baseboard heating, we can actually run these ductless. They usually have wall mount units. What's really unique about them is there's endless combinations of what we can do. We actually even have ducted versions of mini split ductless. So, and then effective heating on those units is actually all the way down to -13 now. They do start to lose some of their COP we'll just stick with COP. They start to lose a little bit once they get down to 5-degree outdoor temperature, but we can still actually extract heat from the air at -13. So it's a great option for anybody who even wants to add cooling, heating to a house with hydronic. So we can jump to the next screen. So COP, this is kind of how we measure the efficiency of a geothermal unit. A 1 COP is equivalent to electric heat. It's 100% efficient. Our average air source runs a COP of 3.5. So it's really 350% efficient. And then our geothermal is always going to be our most efficient option. So we do offer a Water Furnace 7 series, which is their modulating water to air unit that runs a COP of 5.3. So we're buying that one part and we're basically making 5.3 parts off of the refrigerant and the constant temperature of the ground. We can scroll to the next one. So this is kind of a cool chart here. This kind of looks down the left side. It kind of figures out what the COP, and I'm just going to kind of call out the LP gas 95% efficient price per gallon. So if you're familiar with LP gas, it's kind of the alternative if you live in the country to natural gas, where natural gas is not available. So right now at a COP of 3, which is our air source, you would have to be purchasing your LP gas at under $1.17 a gallon. Right now, LP gas, I believe, is running right around $1.80 a gallon. So right there's 70 cents. When you get down to a COP of 5, we'd have to purchase our LP gas for under 68 cents a gallon. I don't think that's even been in the realm of possibilities in the last 10, 15 years. So that's kind of a cost. And then there's also cost per million BTUs. This is just a general chart that we actually use just to kind of look at it. Same thing when you start looking at a COP of 5 against fuel oil. So if somebody's still out there burning fuel oil, you'd have to pay under 71 cents a gallon to be more efficient than our 5 COP geothermal unit. So I believe if you take the road tax off right now, we're probably running about 275 for fuel oil right now. So that is a huge savings. We can jump to the next slide. So why to choose the heat pump? These are the common questions we get asked. What makes the heat pump so great? A lot of people are choosing them for energy independence, also the increased efficiency and environmental impact. And all three of those are really important factors to consider. Usually one of those will resonate more than the others with different customers and different people's needs. So we do a lot based off environmental impact. That's going to be more of the costly jobs. So where we have to do vertical against with natural gas already existing, those are going to be more along the lines of an environmental impact is where we're going to kind of seek that customer. So we can jump.
Thank you, Justin. I'll take it from here and I'll discuss the solar overview and the benefits of choosing solar. So just a quick overview. Solar allows you to run your home on clean, reliable electricity. And since we're talking about heat pumps and solar together, that's something that is going to benefit you when you're looking at both systems. The way solar works, photons excite electrons in the solar panels. This generates a direct current. And then you're going to have either a microinverter or a central inverter, which is going to transform that current into an alternating current. And that is what your home is going to use in its loads, or if it goes to the grid, that's what the grid would use. And the way that works is the energy would then flow through your home, through your home's loads and appliances as you're using them, or into batteries if you have those installed. And then beyond that, if you have excess energy, that will then flow to the grid. The utility is going to then bill you for the net energy used, and any excess credits will then come back to you through your electric bill. And that will depend on the net metering policy of the utility. So the reasons to choose solar that we hear from folks are grid independency. And, folks we're all renting from the utility essentially when we are using electricity from the grid. And solar allows you to really take ownership over your own energy. And that means that you're able to produce clean and reliable electricity at your home. And it does also increase your property value. There was a study done by Zillow that showed that homes with solar energy sold for 4.1% more than on average, than comparable homes without solar. And an important reason would also be just securing your electricity costs today. The most common reason that folks choose solar is to minimize their future cost increases. Electricity rates in Wisconsin have increased on average around 3% annually. But as you can see by these articles, utilities are seeking larger increases for 2025 and 2026. And this chart on the right shows you what Wisconsin homeowners' bills look like over time with those increases. So I have here a 9.6 kW solar array in Big Bend. This is a customer that I've been working with. And the chart shows before and after their electricity before solar and after solar. This is what their bill looks like before adding solar. And this is their new bill. And you'll see that there's $17 on the months that their solar is producing enough energy for their whole home. And that's going to be the customer charge. And your overproduction credits do apply to that. And this shows the savings that this customer will see from their solar. So the first year they'll expect to save $2,154. And I just want to also mention that even on cold days, as long as the sun is shining, you are going to be saving on your electricity. More than half of a typical home's energy use goes towards heating and cooling. So if you can install solar, you can offset a nice chunk of the electricity that your HVAC and heat pump will be using. And that's especially the case on days when it's sunny and your heat pump is working a little harder. Now I just want to touch on, should you add battery storage? So this is something that a lot of customers ask us. And the reasons for adding battery storage would be if you want to make sure that your heat pump and your sump pump are operating during a power outage. It also allows you to have more control over your home energy costs and rely on the grid less. And of course, there's the 30% federal tax credit. So that's going to be applicable for solar if you move forward with solar and a battery, or if you choose to add a battery later. All right. And now we're going to talk about solar and heat pumps together. I'll let you go first,
Awesome.
Justin.
All right, so this is actually a graph. I didn't realize that till we just kind of prepped for this meeting today, that this is actually a true graph from one of our customers that actually does have Arch Solar on his roof. So this kind of just measures kilowatts. This is something we track on all of our units at the customer level. We can also go in and assess if there's any issues. So you can kind of see on my graph, it's a little bit small there, but on the left, it's kilowatt hours used, and then whether it's in high stage, low stage, and then the big thing is you're going to see with like geothermal, especially because we're utilizing such a cold ground that we've extracted heat from all winter, that the costs to air conditioner are virtually nothing. So sometimes just a couple bucks a month in July and that, but we do real live tracking at that level for the customers. And the customers will always be able to know as electricity changes and inputs their own prices in, it'll give them a real graph so they can constantly be tracking what they're doing. So I'll turn it over to you, Jennifer.
All right, thanks. So the graph on the right, this is from our modeling software that we use to model solar on your home. And what we get with the modeling, so let me back up. First, we're going to be asking you for your usage, your monthly kilowatt hour usage. And after we plug that into our modeling software, we're able to model out what you would expect to see as far as what your current usage is and what it would look like with solar offsetting it. So that's what this image is showing you. And then we do also have monitoring available with our systems. And so that is something you'd be able to look at through an app on your device to keep track of how your usage and your solar production compare to each other. Right. So we're going to talk about what the savings on both systems looks like. And Justin, you go ahead.
All right. So just as an example system, we kind of laid out a 310 water furnace 7 series. So ballpark price, this is really dependent on the location, the sizing. So just kind of step back one slide, but we won't switch slides here. We do energy modeling also. So our software is going to be very similar, laying out paybacks and everything like that and ROIs. So here we have an example of a $40,000 system. Right now, we also have the 30% tax credit available on geothermal. Just kind of touch cross with solar. It can be bundled with solar, so it's not limited at any point there. And then Focus on Energy is also giving a $1,000 rebate if you have a natural gas meter or natural gas available at the house. If not, if you're on fuel oil or LP, there is a $750 rebate. So essentially on a $40,000 system, when you file your taxes, you'd be eligible for up to $13,000 in rebates.
Yeah, so as far as the solar goes, I have an example system of a 6 kW solar system, and that's just with solar. The ballpark price for that is $19,987. And then the 30% tax credit means that this customer would receive $5,996 tax credit when they do their taxes for the year of the installation. There is a $300 Focus on Energy incentive for most homeowners through Focus on Energy. I will add that there's also an incentive, a $600 incentive for customers in rural parts of Wisconsin, and that's based off of your zip code. And then there also are additional incentives for business owners and agricultural producers, and I recommend working with us if you have questions about that. In addition to that, the cost of choosing solar is tax exempt, which offers some savings, and there is a property tax exemption. So you will not see an increase in your property taxes if you were to install solar on your home. The total savings here is $6,296. And we do recommend bundling these together because you can stack the incentives, as Justin mentioned. So, yeah, you go ahead, Justin.
All right, so good for the planet. This is kind of where we get into the environmental. So part of what we look at is what are we doing? How many cars are we taking off the road? How many trees are we planting? So My Energy modeling software that we use in the ground source heat pumps will actually calculate that out per everybody's use. So the big thing is it is great for the environment, especially solar, mixing it with the heat pumps. So I'll let you kind of build on that, Jennifer, for everybody.
Yeah. The average household uses between about 9,000 to 10,000 kilowatt hours of electricity annually. So if you switch to solar, that has about the same emissions reductions effect as carbon sequestration by 104 trees or 7.3 acres of US forest in 1 year. The average solar array offsets between 6,000 and 7,000 pounds of coal burned annually. And then I'll just quickly touch on the improving your home's value. So I found this article through Zillow also. It's a Consumer Housing Trends report. And what it shows is that electrifying your home with solar and heat pump systems will improve your home's value. A 2021 study done by Consumer Housing Trends reports found that 67% of home buyers consider a home's energy efficiency to be very or extremely important. And I thought it was interesting that that was higher, that was more valued than the style of kitchen or whether or not the home had a spare bedroom. We do think that this trend will continue up. And then I just wanted to show you this customer testimonial. She was Susan Miller. She's one of our solar customers. And about 2 years ago, Susan, who lives in Madison, Wisconsin, electrified her 90-year-old single-family home. She had a forced hot air heating system, and a gas water heater, and a gas stove top. And she switched everything to electric. So she's now saving on her MG&E bills, and she is seeing the financial benefits. And she did that before the federal tax credits. And maybe we could have Bree drop a link in the chat if we want to do that. It's a fun read. And then last but not least, let's see if we have any questions.
We have a question from someone who was asking, cold climate heat pumps, when will those be available?
So cold climate heat pumps are already available. So that is where the tax credit, if we're talking like a dual fuel application with a cold weather heat pump, they are available right now. Those are qualifying for a $2,000 federal tax credit. The IRA, the homes program, is still not really completely unveiled. Those are going to require energy assessments. But right now we are offering the Daikin Fit system that is a cold weather application. So they are effective down to 13-degree outdoor temperature. They are driving those down a little bit further with the new refrigerant change. But with dual fuel, it has to become a balance point. So the big thing is we want to get our balance point as low as we can with running the heat pump. But at a certain point, we do probably want to switch to the fossil fuel source because it will become more efficient.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. We have a question from someone. It sounds like about their particular use case. So I'll see if I can read through it and if it's able to be answered now. If not, we can always reach out and chat with this person. But they're wondering, they already have a system of solar panels and Tesla Powerwall 2s and a wood stove for heat. Can you put a heat pump on that only goes one way? In this instance, they're curious about cooling. Would there be a larger benefit if they looked into a heat pump for both heating and cooling? There's some information about their bill, if that's helpful, but I think the question is, do you see a benefit of it going one way versus both ways when they already have all of those solar components?
So with the solar components, so like, if you're talking maybe about ductless, we used to actually have cooling only units that didn't have the heat pump functionality. But over the last couple years in the Wisconsin market, there really was no cost savings, so everything comes as a heat pump now. There are benefits to heat pumps, even if you're burning wood. Kind of the shoulder seasons, where we have a cool morning that maybe we need to take the chill out, but we don't want to get a fire going because it's going to overheat the house as the sun comes out throughout the day. That is a great application for maybe a ductless heat pump. That's usually where we see them the best, but we do have ductless available. We don't have it available as a standalone air conditioning unit anymore. They all come with the heat pump option. And the reason for that is it was no more expense. I think it was maybe $30 originally per unit. So they just eliminated stocking extra units nowadays.
Amazing. Uh, those are the questions I'm seeing right now. Let me see if I think we're getting a few more coming through. Someone is wondering, we have solar panels, battery, and geothermal heat pump. Amazing. The heat pump draws a lot of electricity from the battery when power from the grid goes down. Anything to make the geothermal unit more efficient or draw less energy in those instances?
So if you're running 100% on battery, if the grid goes down, they are going to consume quite a bit of electricity that there's really not going to be an alternative way to handle that particular scenario. The biggest thing with geothermal is you want to keep the constant temperature. We don't want to turn it up, down. We want to make sure it's just kind of humming along at the lowest speed possible. Other than that, there's not really a lot of different options for that particular application.
Great. Somebody is wondering, they're saying, I've been looking at replacing our AC, but not our 98% gas furnace. It looks like the IRA rebates or credits only apply to heat pump and furnace combo purchases. Do either of you know if that's correct? I think that's more of an IRA incentive question.
I can kind of answer to that. Depending on everything has to have an AHRI rating. That's basically the government's verification that it qualifies. So depending on the age of the furnace, if it's a 98% efficient furnace, it's going to be a fairly new furnace. If it's been tested with a heat pump option, we can pull an AHRI number and then that would qualify.
Perfect. I'm not seeing any current questions in the chat. Oh, the person is following up saying 12 years old, just for context on that previous question.
12 is going to be a little bit tough to try to get an AHRI matchup with something of that age. Average life expectancy of a gas furnace is approximately 15 years, so it's a little bit on the tail end there of its life cycle. So maybe the next go around on updating that system, I would definitely look into the heat pump dual fuel option though.
Awesome. And for both of these cases, I did not check with our presenters beforehand, but I would guess that both Jennifer and Justin would be open if anyone on this has very particular questions or wants to look at their house specifically. Thanks, Jen. I was going to say Jen can put this information on there and we can drop it in the chat as well. If there's something very specific and you want to look at your options, I know that they are both excited and willing to do that with you. And then-
Indeed, please
definitely.
reach out.
Yeah, I have one final question, possibly to close us out. So when folks are interested in both of these products, is there a proper order of operations to go about it? Or is there a way that you recommend, get the heat pump first so you can size solar or flip that? What do the experts say on that?
Collaboration. So oftentimes it's one or the other. So I often follow around Arch, or Arch is right behind me. I always do recommend working with Arch. So it's just collaboration, because if we're working together with the customer, that's the best opportunity to make sure that all the customer needs are being met. So whether we meet together in one shot or we follow each other around, as long as we know that solar's either following Geo or Geo's following solar, it's just great. But we both need to know kind of where the customer stands. So that's always a kind. If I go out on a geothermal quote, that is my first question. If we don't have solar, when are we putting solar on? Because the answer 90% of the time says the meeting's next week. Perfect. Get me in touch when we get to that point, and I'm happy to work with Arch on this so that we can get you the best system that's going to give you the highest return.
Yeah, I'd also just add that it may make sense to look at your existing electricity usage and start there, just so we know generally what the solar system size would be to fit your current usage, and then what we're going to be planning for any changes to your home electrifications and adding heat pumps, that sort of thing.
Wonderful. Okay, we are at time. Thank you both so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure plenty of folks on here did as well. As we mentioned before, do not be a stranger. Please stay in touch with both Arch and professional services. We are here, we're local, we want to make sure that we're answering questions. So thank you so much to everyone who joined. We will make sure that these resources go out to you all shortly.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you for
everybody.
having me.
Thanks for being on, Justin.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.